Hello, this is me, Nick, from the Podsquad, and today I'm going to be talking about my 10 favourite albums of all time. It's a really tough decision for me, and it's always changing around, and these aren't in any particular order either. I've tried picking stuff from multiple genres, because I do listen to a variety of music, but yeah, like, these are my 10 favourite albums. And also, another thing which I sort of done was I sort of slightly considered their influence and sort of how influential they are, the albums and that. So yeah, let's go on with it. So the first one is OK Computer by Radiohead. I really like Radiohead, they're one of my favourite bands of all time, and they also have one of my favourite albums of all time, OK Computer. It does have a theme, and it's sort of a cycle. It starts off with a car crash with Airbag, and then goes through, and then the last song is also about a car crash as well. And it goes through sort of multiple themes, sort of no surprises, which is you just generally fed up with everything. And yeah, it's been really influential. You can see it in practically most sort of indie alternative bands now. Sort of the Radiohead influence, like Violent Soho, if you actually heard of them, Coldplay. It's quite a dark album. It isn't one that you would go and listen to if you went to a party or something. Yeah, because it's quite mellow and slow paced as well, and a lot of the themes are quite sad and dark. But it's still a really good album, and I still recommend you listen to it if you're just in general, just to listen to it. So the second album which I'm gonna say about, which is also one of my favourite albums of all time, is Demon Days by Gorillaz. So Gorillaz are what they call a virtual band. Well, they are pretty much virtual because there are actual musicians in that, but they don't portray them as that in music videos, concerts and that. They're these cartoon characters. It's their second album, and I think it's sort of the good step up. The first album was really good, but it sort of missed that thing. It sort of went off a bit too much, I would say. So it sort of did start off with a storyline thing, and then they follow quite a lot of genres, because there's pop, rock, indie, electronic, folk, and yeah, rap and hip hop. And yeah, they just tried exploring too many genres, I think. But this album, well, they probably have a similar amount of genres that they cover, but it's still really good, and they have the actual plot, and it follows all the way through the album. And yeah, you can just listen to these three, Kids with Guns, not Clint Eastwood, Dirty Harry, and Bear. They're all three completely different sounding tracks, but they're still sort of Gorillaz-like, and they still sound really good, and they follow the actual plot of sort of the storyline and that, which is really good. And I'm really quite surprised that there hasn't been any other bands that have tried to sort of do the thing with virtual members or made-up members, cartoon members. The third album which I'm going to mention is Green Day's American Idiots. This also follows a story, not with actual virtual band members, but it follows sort of many of the issues and that in America, sort of during the 2000s. A lot of them are still around now. There are a few stuff which have sort of moved on, but it's still a really good album. There's American Idiot, Jesus of Suburbia, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, St. Jimmy. Just loads of good tracks, which are really good in their own, and then they also fit in really well. Like the endings and that, they fit in so well, they sort of just lead on really nicely into the next track. And it is really hard to make an album, sort of concept album, like a punk rock concept album, but Green Day done it. And it's really good, and yeah, definitely, easily, probably the best album in the 2000s, I would say. So the fourth album which I'm going to talk about is The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. You can obviously see, I don't know which, either side, most likely this side, like you can see the triangle on that. That's the album cover. If you didn't know, you should really know, or else just don't ever listen to music, okay? So yeah, this is it's progressive rock, that's what Pink Floyd are, and it's really mellow and calm and that. There's only 8 tracks on there, but they're quite long. They usually average around 5 to 6 minutes, so it's sort of the average length of an album in the end. And it also sort of covers a lot of topics, sort of with money, sort of, oh yeah, I have to be happy to have money because that's what the track Money's about, sort of going against that idea and all that stuff. They use quite a lot of instruments. It's not just the guitar, electric guitar, bass, drum, singer. They actually use them and actually brought it in sort of to rock for a bit and into other genres as well at the time. So yeah, it's a very influential album and definitely one of my favourite albums. The 5th album which I'm going to be talking about, not a very well known album actually, which is quite surprising because of how influential this person is. Like, this guy practically invented the genre of electronic. He definitely influenced a lot of people. Daft Punk wouldn't be around if it wasn't because of him. Even like your crap, well, I'm not saying that you listen to it, but quite a lot of people listen to it. Skrillex, like, he wouldn't be around at all either. Or at least, well, he'll probably still be alive, of course, but not making the music, that sort of type of music. It's called Oxygen. It's French, by Jean-Michel Jarre. I don't know if I've said that right. He's a French musician, and yeah, the album actually came out, I think, 1976, 1977, but it's so advanced for its time. It uses so many sort of different sound effects and that. He definitely sampled a lot of things. Sort of very sort of calm and very progressive, which I really like about electronic music, which is quite a shame that not that many electronic musicians don't do anymore. Yeah, it's still really good, and also try and watch a lot of his live stuff as well, because he actually does all the things. He does lighting, sort of smoke machines, everything. And he's like 70 now. There's no actual sort of track names, it's just part 1, Oxygen part 1, part 2, there's 6 parts, but they're all about 10-11 minutes long, so the album's about an hour, so roughly around the average time for an album. But yeah, I would definitely recommend listening to it if you're into any progressive stuff or any electronic, to be fair. So the 6th album which I'm going to be talking about, this looks really weird, is one that you might not expect me to say, but deadmau5's album title goes here. This only came out a few years ago actually, but I personally really like it. It is the progressive sort of thing which I was talking about, which I quite like about deadmau5. I know a lot of critics, they slag him off all the time. They hate him. I don't know why though, because this stuff's actually really good. And yeah, there's some really good tracks on there. The Vow, definitely. Sort of, it's very calm and that. It sounds quite happy in that, but it's actually quite dark. It's about like a short story called The Vow, which is a futuristic thing where these kids, they got this room and then they can transform to wherever they want. They keep going to like the savannah sort of thing, and eventually their parents get eaten by lions. Yeah, back to the album, it is really good. I really enjoy it. Like, it's not it's not trying to copy what people done in the past, which is probably what a lot of people would have done. It has quite a lot of originality. It's still the progressive thing, but it still has sort of, especially Professional Griefers, which he teamed up with Gerard Way. He done like the vocals for that. But yeah, especially that, because it's still quite progressive, but it's still sort of really sort of on-beat sort of thing and outgoing. And yeah, I definitely do recommend also listen to deadmau5 as well, especially if you want to try and get into some electronic music. The 7th one is also fairly recent. Well, When I think about it now, it was like Chat Recent 2007, which is 9 years ago, really. But Newton Faulkner's Hands Built by Robots, one of the two. He's an acoustic guitar player that actually started off with actually being homeless, and he was actually doing a lot of things, sort of playing on the streets in London. And this album is his first album, and it is really good. It shows off how well he can play the guitar, how he's really good sort of with writing music as well, because a lot of the songs are really good, especially sort of stuff like People Should Smile More, and then he also does sort of a good sort of thing with the guitar as well with UFO. Yeah, it's really good. It's his debut album as well, which is amazing, really, because probably like a year or two ago he was homeless, and then he goes out and he releases this album, and it's really good. With a lot of the stuff which I was talking about, a lot of them they say, a lot of them do have sort of dark sort of undertones and that to them, but it's generally a sort of album which you listen to and it makes you really happy, and has sort of really good, nice, positive messages. And yeah, it's sort of very family friendly, not like American Idiot where there's quite a lot of bad language in that. And yeah, I definitely also recommend listening to Newton Faulkner if you're into sort of acoustic guitar stuff. So the 8th one is actually, I don't know, Will might actually agree with this, because he's actually a massive fan of David Bowie. It's Ziggy Stardust, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust. The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie. This really is a good album. It's sort of more like true sort of, it's really good, really influential, sort of raw. I think David Bowie definitely influenced sort of what you think of a pop star is now, because it's sort of like pop-like, I'd say pop rock is the best way of describing it. There's some really good songs on there. It does go through the life of someone who becomes famous, become like a rock star, because of certain talent. They sort of all of a sudden just get loads of exposure. They do for a while, and then slowly it sort of goes down. And like the tracks and that, the way that they're put, it definitely shows that, and it just sinks in so well. And David Bowie's definitely a really good songwriter. Like I've been listening to quite a lot of his stuff recently, and it's great. So the 9th album which I'm going to be talking about is Super. This is a really weird one to say. Super Fuzz Big Muff by Mudhoney. You're probably thinking, who the hell are Mudhoney? Like literally anyone. They're one of the first Seattle bands, grunge bands, sort of thing, that sort of style. Well, they are actually from Seattle as well. And yeah, I do really like grunge, and you'll probably think of me mentioning sort of Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden or Alice in Chains. Like I do like them 4 bands, they're really good, but Mudhoney is really underrated. It's not just sort of the grunge sort of thing, it's just good rock in general, especially this album with stuff like Touch Me I'm Sick, 24, like 24 Hours, 24, Hate the Police, or Called by the, Hate the Police, In and Out of Grace. Some really good rock albums, sort of quite punky in places, but it's sort of quite heavy as well, and the lyrics and that, they're not like really deep, they're sort of proper sort of, rebel sort of against the system rock sort of thing, doing what the hell you like, which is what rock sort of started off with, really. And I'm really surprised that they're not mentioned with the big 4 of grunge, because they're such a good band. They're so underrated in my opinion. They wrote this when they were still in high school as well, so I think they're about 16, 17 when they done this album. Maybe a bit older, like 18, but yeah, especially for that, it sounds so good, and like the actual sort of instruments and that, they sound great, especially for someone sort of that young and that as well. And yeah, definitely recommend listening to this. If you want to know what rock is, listen to that album. It just defines it. Who's That in the Fog? Sorry, I had to look at it because he's got quite a lot of good albums and he's really hard working. It's sort of indie classic sort of thing. Sort of classical guitar, no, not guitar, like piano. And yeah, it's just piano sort of stuff, and yeah, it sort of goes down to a lot of roots of just in general music, and it just sounds really good. So it goes down to the roots generally. Sorry, I got interrupted there, but yeah, it goes down sort of the roots of what makes a good song, and he sings quite a lot of stuff. In general, like a lot of artists do stuff where they do a happy song, but well, they do a song that sounds happy but they're quite sad. It sort of does it the other way around, where it sounds quite sad, but like the message is still pretty good and it's quite sort of happy and uplifting if you really think about it. And a lot of the visuals and that he says he doesn't like them, but I think they really suit his music if you sort of go on to sort of YouTube and look at his channel and that. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you want to have any more sort of music sort of stuff, just put it down below. I don't know, I might try and do another album review soon. And Lewis should hopefully be able to upload a video of sort of him in it, like Lewis Jordan. I think it'd be Lewis Jordan, Amy Newen? Yeah, them four. I don't know if it'll be up before this video, but yeah, have a good morning, day, noon, afternoon, evening, and night.